I wonder if you could talk about depression. Is it an energy? I understand anger is an energy, but depression, do you think it is an illness, energy, or mindset? Hope you don't mind me asking. Anger being an energy. No, anger isn't an energy. Anger, see, okay, Buddhist theory breaks things down. They even said that in our tradition, they said that the Buddha was a Vibhajyawadin, someone who splits things up or dissects things, breaks things up into its constituent parts. That's what best described the Buddha. It's an interesting quote, but that ended up being the orthodox interpretation of the Buddha's teaching, was that the Buddha broke things up instead of allowing for entities to exist. And so we do this with emotions, and I think it's very important to do it with emotions. I agree with this interpretation. Anger, at its very essence, is simply disliking. It's a judgment. The state of being angry doesn't just contain that judgment. It contains judgment after judgment after judgment, moment after moment after moment of judgment, and the results of those judgments, which is a lot of energy, a lot of stress, a lot of pain, heat in the body. It can be associated with headaches in the head, shaking in the body, red in the face, blood pumping, heart pumping. But these are all results and habits that have become a part of the system of what we call the body. What we call the body is simply the habits of the mind that have become, lifetime after lifetime, become what we call human. So that's about anger. Now depression is a little bit more intricate, but it can still be broken down into its constituent parts, and the only way to deal with it is to break it down into its constituent parts. We talked about this, I've talked about this before in regards to addiction, pornography. We were talking about how you can break it down in regards to the looking at something beautiful or attractive and then feeling good about it, and then as a result wanting that feeling or craving that feeling. Once you crave the feeling, then you act for it again. So if you break it up into these, or you act to bring it about again. And when you act to bring it out again, you see it again. And when you see it again, then there's the good feeling, and then there's more liking, and you have this feedback loop. Once you break it up into these parts, the seeing, the feeling, and the liking, then you can go back and forth between these two and these three, and you can come to see what you're doing to yourself and what's causing the suffering, and see that there's actually no entity, there's actually nothing to it. The seeing is meaningless, the pleasant feeling is also meaningless, and the craving is also meaningless. There's no reason for one to lead to the other, or one to necessitate the other. There's no logical relationship. So, with depression, you can break it up in a similar way. So with depression, you have, and I'm not an expert on this, but thinking back to my depression, you have, of course, anger. The base of depression is still anger. It's what we call anger, meaning the state of disliking, the partiality, because you're not happy about something. It can often be a thought, and it's generally a reoccurring thought. It's a perception. It can be a perception based on your current situation. It can be a memory based on something that is past. It can be something about the future that looks bleak and unappealing and so on. But then one thing that I think binds together these emotions that makes us call them depression is the habit, how it becomes habitual. It's a simmering sort of anger that becomes this habit where we turn inward on ourselves and react to the anger. We don't like something, we're not happy about something, and we react by closing down, by repressing, by mulling, by fuming. So the difference with different kinds of anger, isn't the disliking, it isn't the anger itself, it's how we deal with it, and or it's how we react to it. Some people react to bad things by getting furious about them. Some people react to anger by getting depressed about them. The furious means that person has the tendency to fight. The depression means that person has the tendency to retract within themselves and go back and obsess over them. It's quite intricate, but must be dealt with by breaking it down into its constituent parts. So first there is the disliking, and then there is the pain or the sadness. Depression is often related with sadness and this brooding sort of feeling. But you have to be able to catch the disliking, and then catch the feeling, and then catch the thought. You have to be able to break it up into these three parts. There's whatever it is that's making you depressed. Find that, and it could be many things. For many people it is a number of things. But whenever one of those things comes up, you say thinking, or remembering, or so on. Or if it's seeing or hearing, you see something that makes you depressed, and seeing it again and again makes you depressed. So say to yourself, seeing. When then there's the unhappiness, you say unhappy or pain, or so on. Or sadness, sad. And when you dislike it, disliking. That's the way with everything. So I don't think it helps to think of whether it's an energy or illness or a mindset. It's a conglomeration that becomes habitual of various things. One important thing that you could look up is the teaching on the Buddha of Paticca Samuppada, which is basically in what I was explaining in brief, that passa salayatana paccaya passo, the six senses lead to contact. Passo paccaya vedana, vedana is cause the contact with the senses, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling, thinking, leads to feelings, happy feelings, unhappy feelings, neutral feelings. Vedana paccaya tanha, so craving, wanting something to be, wanting something to not be, which would be anger, comes from the feelings. So when you break them up in this way, and when you get rid of your ignorance about this, you come to see what you're doing, and you come to see how it's leading only to suffering. That you're able to change the habit, because the habits are based on misunderstanding. It's because you think that it's going to make you happy. It's because you think that it's the right way, or because of a habit. Because you are conditioned to act in that way, because you're not realizing, you don't see what you're doing to yourself, that you do it. Once you see what you're doing to yourself, you stop doing that. You stop hurting yourself.